Hey, everybody. We're back, and I want to thank everybody for joining me on the different live streams we've had over the past week alone. But I'm really excited to present my new friend, Rowena Brown, who is running for Oakland City Council at large. Rowena, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to the conversation and getting to so that you can get to know me more and vice versa.
And on air, I want to apologize for the different, you know, ways that uh, things that were happening, and thank you for being patient because this has been a difficult year.
No worries. I appreciate your efforts around ensuring that the community has access to the conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, so tell us about Rowena Brown. You work for Lauren, and you have a great background, and I even blogged about you. But I want to hear it from you. You didn't see that?
No,
Shame.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. So now I gotta go head over. Gotta head over to the blog. I hope it's I hope it's good.
It was
Yeah.
good. It was good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Hello to the community. I know that we're live. Yeah. So Rowena Brown. I am running for Oakland City Council. But would love to just give everyone an opportunity to just know me more. And so I am a Bay Area native. My family originally kind of came here from Texas, a small town in Texas called Plainview. My granddad came to help work on the shipyard in Richmond, and so that was the work that he did back in the late '60s. And my dad is one. My dad was one of 13 siblings. So I have a large family, lots of aunts and uncles and cousins, and they live, here in California, still in Texas, some in Arizona, and so the Brown family is large. And my story kind of begins, born in Richmond, and was raised kind of all around the Bay Area. My dad did end up serving in the armed forces. Ended up being discharged because he got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So just
Hmm.
interesting story there. And ultimately, most folks, as they've been following me on the campaign trail, they hear me say how I ended up losing both of my parents before I even reached the age of 18, before I even graduated from high school. And, I don't really go much into the detail, but let's just say, I have a strong passion for. Have you been following that Senate bill that came from Senator Bradford around? It's called the Ebony Alert, and it has to do with
Yeah.
missing Black
About
uh,
it. Yeah.
women and girls, and just the need for more awareness and more advocacy in that space, because it's a little bit of the story as it relates to my mom went missing when I was just 11 months old, and we would, as a family, we would not find out what happened to her. I was in my 20s, and so
Quick question. Why do you think this is happening, and why is it not still the alarm it should be?
I mean the truth, right? And I hate to put it like this. I know that the truth is it always boils down to kind of a lack of resources, right? We know that our police departments that have this charge to help investigate different things that are happening in the community, a lot of times they don't have the capacity, right?
Hmm.
This took place in the city of Richmond in the late '80s, right? And so there's that, and then we also know what the truth is too. Black people, missing Black people do not get the priority that they deserve. And so I love to see that in 2024, that Ebony Alert bill made it across the finish line, right? And so I'm really So that's a part of just some hard work that I am continuing to work through, and then we also see even in other communities like the Native American community and how they've been drawing attention to missing indigenous women, right? And how those cases also go unsolved as well. And so I think it's just part of a really like a nationwide epidemic around what we're doing to actually advocate and provide resources for departments that need to have the ability to dive into these cases. And so that's a little that's a passion piece of mine as well. And so I've thoroughly that my current role is district director for State Assembly Member Mia Bonta, and I've been with the office since
Hey,
2020.
Mia.
I was just with her today. A part of my I've enjoyed working.
Secret. I actually emceed her fundraiser a couple of years ago.
Which one?
It was online. It was put together online with Zoom. Yeah, Rob came in and everything else. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I probably was in the Zoom room. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so working at the state level it's just been eye-opening. It's given me insights into just all of the things that I'm passionate about. And so for example, my dad would end up passing away. I mean, he worked so much of the life lessons and who I am today is because of him, right? He overcame Crohn's disease. He served our country. Did end up in the carceral system, overcame those challenges, became an entrepreneur, bought our family our first home, literally worked every day of his life to provide for me and my brothers. And he passed away of a heart attack. And so a couple things kind of surrounding that around like just access to kind of quality education around nutrition, right? How we take care of ourselves, and just the pressure that is really put on families to survive in this economy, this community, right in the Bay Area. It's hard. And so and I'm saying all of this now as a 30 something year old adult reflecting on what I saw growing up, right? Of like those who, and my auntie raised me for a good portion of my life. And I saw her, same thing, work every day to provide and like really just make sure that we, as growing up, I didn't really think I was living a life that was on the lower income side of things. I just knew that the people around me were doing everything it took to care for me. And so when before I even graduated high school, my dad, he passed away. And so that was a challenge, right? And so as my peers were going off to college, I was entering the workforce. And so I ended up going to a trade school. I went to a trade school to study to be a licensed optician, right? So I'm the person that I was the person that after you see the optometrist, I would help you with your glasses. I would help fit you for contact lenses. And I did that work for an innovative optical retail company that is here in Northern America and Europe, one of the largest optical manufacturers. And I worked for them for about 7 years. And I got
Zenny Optical with it.
Huh? Which one?
Zenny Optical with it.
It wasn't Zinni.
Okay.
It wasn't Zinni, but I know Zinni well. They kind of came. I feel like they came along in the early 2010s.
Hey, true story. He stole the name for his company from me.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I'll tell you that story later.
Okay, wow, see, small world. And a couple of my friends, funny story, a couple of my friends ended up working for the Bay Area one in San Francisco. But yeah, and so that's where I really got my, here I am, 18 years old. By the time I turned 20, I am managing my own optical retail store. And I would work for this company, and they would literally fly me all over the country to leadership trainings. And so this is where I got my foundation being a leader. I was, literally the youngest in the company at these leadership forums. And I would stay with that company for 7 years. And when I left, I was managing one of the highest volume locations in the West Coast.
Whoa.
Right. And so, but here's the beauty, and this is where my connection really to Oakland is, besides the fact my great uncle, his home was right across the street from Arroyo Viejo Park. And so I grew up playing in Arroyo Viejo Park, visiting him every weekend. That's my great uncle, my dad's uncle. So besides that kind of connection there to East Oakland, which I'll talk more about, the company had a nonprofit called One Site, and I was the captain where we helped provide eye examine glasses to K through 12 young people in OUSD. And I did that for years. And so a lot of my early kind of community work is with those in the Oakland Unified School District. And that actually was the work that kept me in optometry for as long as it did, because I love serving the community in that way. And so eventually I ended up getting recruited to work at Kaiser. And so I was I managed the Kaiser opticals, both at Oakland and Richmond. And then there was just a point where I was like, you know what? And sometimes, our conditions in our life, right? We're focused in on how am I surviving, right?
Mm-hmm.
How am I making a living? How am I taking care of myself? That it literally wasn't until almost 7 years later that I said to myself, well, Rowena, what is it that you want to do? And
You're just so busy doing for others.
right. And so that's when I decided, you know what? I've always loved learning. I've always loved education. And so that's when I enrolled into my first class at Merritt College. And so the first class that I took was a class by, I'm sure you know who she is, Erica Huggins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she taught this class called the Black Panther Party Strategies for Organizing the People. And so that was the first class I took when I started my community college journey. And that just really kind of put in motion, I had folks in my class, they were telling a little bit about their personal story, and it would be like, oh, my dad is, incarcerated, or, we grew up in this type of community plagued by gun and gang violence, all of these stories. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how can we have shared stories? Right. And so I started to dive into courses in the political science space and get an understanding of how policy decisions are made, and starting to draw that correlation. Right.
Real that path toward politics and eventually where you're at right now.
Exactly. And so that would lead me to, so I navigated through, the Peralta colleges, made my way to Mills College. I'm a Mills College alum, ended up living in East Oakland. And that experience, kind of going to Mills College, I ended up teaching 8th grade civics education in an East Oakland school, and talking to these young people around the conditions that, what it takes just for them to leave their home and make it to school, right? In a safe way, right? And so that just really kind of, I ended up studying public policy, comparative government. And so I kind of left Mills College really being focused on serving the Oakland community. And so that's really kind of how the story comes into play around, me serving alongside former council member Taylor. I served the office.
How did that come about? How'd you, because you could have interviewed, not gotten hired, but you got hired. How you interviewed and got hired, and what was it like to work for Lauren over that time?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was working on another project in East Oakland. It was called the Women's Social Entrepreneurship Center. And we were focused in on helping women who were previously incarcerated start their own business. And recently elected Councilmember Taylor attended the grand opening. It was right there on the corner of International and Seminary. And so that was my first kind of meeting with him. And, and then I think a couple months later, they had an opening. And so I applied, and, my time working for Lauren was phenomenal. Ultimately, that led into the pandemic. And so the type of leadership style that he has, my job was constituent relations, right? And so I worked every day. I also ran the communications out, right? We know that the pandemic was a time of great uncertainty. And so, I was in charge of, hey, this is what's going on at the county level. This is what we're doing. This is where you can go to get testing sites. I worked together with like the Black Cultural Zone, for example, East Oakland Collective, to put together the food hubs. I'm sure you remember all those food sites that were in East Oakland. And then eventually we made it to the point where we had the vaccination sites and all of that work. And so I got to serve on the front lines doing that. And then I also got to participate in the legislative process, right, at the local level, right? So attending every City of Oakland council meeting. This was also the time that the formation of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force came about, right? And all of that work around like, hey, how are we allocating resources to community-based organizations who are doing the great work? And so I was just involved in all of it. And I really kind of left the office. I got into law school. So that was a key kind of trajectory, right? So I got into law school, went to UC Hastings, and then at the same time, I wanted to learn more about all of Oakland, right? I had loved and enjoyed my time advocating for the East Oakland community. And aside from that, I had lived in other parts of the town as well, but I was like, you know what? I want to learn more about all the stakeholders. And so that's when I actually was me as campaign manager during the special election.
Ask you about law school. What kind of law student were you? Here's where I'm going with this, because I came that close to going to Bolt at the behest of Stephen Sherman. And I love torts, but I also thought I knew everything. And I went and started my own company rather than going to law school. But one thing I love about the law is the detail it forces you to think in, But how was law school for you? How did it change you, or how did you change it?
Oh, I love that question. Well, it was definitely. I like to say it's not for the weak. I loved it because, like I said, I love learning, and so I don't approach the classroom as, hey, I know it, right? Even though I was walking into the law school experience, having worked side by side with attorneys in the city of Oakland, right? And having access to folks who have taught me a lot, but I was in the classroom in a way of, hey, I'm here to learn. And there's a lot that I don't know. And so I just kind of took it on like that. Of course, my mind was a little distracted because here I was on one hand, learning the law, and then on the other hand, actively engaged, eventually at the state level, right? And so I think that I was attentive in the classes that I really loved. I was very attentive, and so I ended up concentrating in environmental law, which I loved so much. Did a lot on like land use regulation because that was another component that I became passionate about. How, like in the city of Oakland, how many vacant lots are available and how we can activate that in our communities, because in West Oakland and East Oakland, there's opportunity. And I was like, in my mind, I was thinking like, I want to have the skill set to be able to create help create change with community groups so that we actually have neighborhoods that are thriving and that bring us joy. Yes. Right? We're driving down, whether we're driving down Bancroft, we're driving down the MacArthur corridor, like between 73rd to 98th, like I want to see activation, right? And so I was taking those courses. I was studying like the general plans. One class that I took,
Wow.
they had us study the general plan for Capitola, which is insightful, right? Because it's important to know also what's going on outside of Oakland, right?
Yes.
Because that's how we can learn. Hey, maybe there are some things that we can be doing better. And so, so to answer your question, I think I was the best student I could be on the
Yeah.
subjects that I enjoyed. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest with you. I did not like torts, by the way.
Oh, why not? But I'll talk to you about that. That's a tort right there.
Like that wasn't my fave. But you know what I did? I thought that a class that still sticks with me today and the learnings around like criminal procedure. That course, I think I still like I want actually, you know what? I'll introduce you to my professor. You should have him on.
Okay.
You should have him on because I think that it's important that we are equipping community members with the knowledge of
Yes.
how to
Yep.
interact appropriately with law enforcement. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, what was the aha moment when you said, "I can be an Oakland council member. I'm going to
Yeah.
run"?
Yeah, that definitely. Well, oh, see, so I think that that's two separate things.
Yeah.
Back in 20, I had this course at Mills College. It was called Women's Leadership in Politics, and it was taught by former council member of Berkeley, Lori Joski.
Hmm.
Um, and she taught the class in a way where every week she would have a woman leader, whether in the state senate, the California legislature, a city attorney, a city administrator, come and talk to the class. So that was actually my first moment where I thought to myself, hey, you know what? Maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
Now, the type of person that I am, I'm not the type that, I'm going to wake up and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go do something. I like to immerse myself in the field that I'm interested in and learn all that I can so that when I finally step up and say, hey, you know what, I want to do this, I feel prepared. And so in this moment, I feel 100% prepared for the role that I am seeking as serving as the at-large council member.
What kind of office will you have? I always love to ask this. What kind of people are you looking for to work for you? Should you be the person that wins? What kind of office will you have?
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I'm just plugging in my laptop. Yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine that in the same way that let's make sure that there we go.
Aha,
Um,
I'm energized. Sorry.
yeah, I was like, don't want the computers to die. Yeah, no, um, even in so I currently manage the district office that represents the 18th district here in Oakland.
Yes.
And my current staff is diverse, right? Because I think that it is important that your staff is representative of
Mhm.
the community that you serve. Right. So of course it would make sense to ensure that we have someone who would be representative for our Latino community,
Mhm.
right? Spanish speaking. Of course, I want to make sure that I'm addressing, I want to have an expert in my office that is focused in on, let's just say, housing policy,
Mhm.
right? We know that the city of Oakland needs to build more housing. It's going to be on the part of the council, the planning commission, these other agencies to do that. So I am focused in, and I also have a strong legislative background as well. I'll tell you about some of the bills I've been able to work on successfully. One of which is actually on the governor's desk right now.
Hmm.
So the role of the policy director is one that I take very, very seriously. I also think you could do great work. I've seen this happen. Whether at the local, county, or state level or federal level, you can have a legislator that is working day and night advocating. But if you don't put that message out and you don't have strong communications,
Right.
and no one knows, people are going to say you're not doing anything. And so I also know that in my office, I want to have a strong communications team. This is what's going on at the city. Come engage us, because that's the other thing, a part of my message as well. It's like, hey, I want to serve the community, but I need the community, right? So
Right.
if there's something that's coming to council and I need feedback, I got to let you know, hey, this is what we got going on. I need you to come down to City Hall if you have an opinion or you have a thought. I actually want that community engagement. And that's something that I've led on in a lot of roles that I've been in. And
Mhm.
even before I was in government, is that the community engagement piece. And so, and then of course, you also need to make sure you have a strong representative in like constituent relations,
Yeah.
right? What is going on? What are the issues? So if you get 50 phone calls about I'm just gonna throw this out here, water quality, we'll just
Mhm.
make something up. If you're getting 50 phone calls about a certain issue, your staff should actually come to you first before before it's in the news. Let's put it like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Should
Right.
yeah.
So, so,
Going to get
so
sandbagged. Yeah.
Right. And so that's how you know if you are actually like in tune, where it's like, hey, you know what? This has come to our radar. This is the work that we're doing. Let's bring everyone together. We got to solve this. Because I do think that we are living through a time right now that the Oakland voters are looking for action, right? No longer is it acceptable to come with lip service, right? It's like,
Right.
hey, this is what the issues are. Bring all the key stakeholders together, come up with an action plan, and then go.
Yeah. I'm curious because when you hit office, and I realized this when I first started working for Elihu in Oakland as economic advisor, there was no to-do list, you know, but there were, except that we had the agenda and we had to advise Elihu on what positions we thought he should take on various items on the agenda.
Mm,
Now, a council member can get really caught up in that and maybe get off track of what they want to do, which leads to my question. When you
mhm.
come into office, what is it that you will make time for your staff to do that really marks your brand? You know, what you believe is important, you know?
Yeah, I think I also know that one of my I wouldn't necessarily, I'll call it, you know what, I'm gonna call it that. One of
Yeah.
my superpowers is the ability to stay focused.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because literally, like, there's always so much going on around us, but you have to have someone who is committed um to a list of goals and to see them through.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is for sure what I'll be focusing on. And one thing that I know that I want to do is that right away I need to start interacting with those who have been doing the work, right? Our city administration, current council members, right? Helping me get up to speed on like, hey, what have been the roadblocks?
Hmm.
This is where we are, right? And that even goes the same for those who are outgoing, right? Outgoing council members, right? I'm going to say this on this live stream. I'm so sad that council member Reed is not rerunning. I was looking forward to working alongside her, as I just value her leadership, and I've learned so much from her over the years, right? So she will be someone that, hey, show me the roadmap. What is still left to really kind of work on and solve, right? And so as I go into, I mean, personally, as I go into the new year, because I want to believe that I will be victorious come November 5th. I'm going to be focused in on ensuring that we can get some resources from at the state level, whether that's grants around helping to support public safety,
Hmm.
right? Public safety is more than one thing; it's multiple things, and so we gotta support the circle of all the things that go into that, right? So OPD, Department of Violence Prevention, our macro program, and perhaps maybe even something else, right? Because we know that that's the main community kind of need.
Right.
Also, that goes hand in hand with that is addressing homelessness. And
Yes.
so, a part of the addressing homelessness piece is definitely linked to um, more substance abuse services. That is urgent. More services for mental health, that is urgent, because we can build transitional housing, but if the folks who are going into transitional housing have some of these other pressing needs,
Yes. Yes.
it's not going to be successful. And so I would just love it if we could. I mean, we've lived through a pandemic with people living on our streets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is urgent for our city to figure it out. And I look forward to not only a strong relationship at the state level, but it also is going to require the county.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
what would you like to see us do regarding our seemingly chronic budget deficit problem?
Yeah. Well, first, and I've been saying this publicly, we got to we got to really pull back the curtain and see what's been going on, right, with some of our spending.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that, I mean, I see it every day, right? So I'm working at the state level and I'm seeing the grant opportunities that are available across sectors, right? One example I've been using is just a couple weeks ago, I saw a grant that had to do with cybersecurity grant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I sent that to our city administrator and I was like, hey, soft ping, here's this grant money that's available. We know
Yeah.
that at the top of the year, we had a situation,
Right.
right,
Right.
around cybersecurity.
Sure did.
Here's some dollars that we can go after, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was impacted by that as a previous employee, right? So,
Oh.
right. So,
So
but
your information is somewhere in Luxembourg, is what you're saying?
it is. It is. And so that's one example that I use of like, hey, there are multiple avenues of money that the city can go after to help alleviate the pressure on some of these departments and the work that they are doing.
Right.
Back in 2020, I witnessed the Department of Transportation go after a lot of money at the state level around traffic calming
Mm-hmm.
and street design,
Yep.
and they got the money. But the part that's holding it up is the city doesn't have enough
Yeah.
engineers and project managers to get the work done.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm also, and the last thing I'm going to say on this is technology.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that there are a lot of things that if we can, get the tech right to help us streamline our process, we can be running an efficient city. And then sometimes you got to learn from others, right? So one of the biggest things I love doing is if I see something, whether I'm visiting another city or I'm just kind of seeing what's happening regionally, hey, how'd you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Right? That's
yeah.
partnership.
Help me with this, because there's this stuff going around, not bad stuff, but okay. Empower Oakland says, oh, hey, by the way, we're spending too much money, which is the same thing that Make Oakland Better said like decades ago before that. Not decades, but a decade ago. And yet, no one seems to tell me why it is, because I want to know what the thinking is. Why is it that we don't seem to pay attention to our economic development anymore and match it to our budget needs? I
mean, it's broad. It's broad, right? I was on a forum the other day and I was like, wow, this is news to me. One of the candidates for city attorney was sharing how, we pay too much. And I did not fact check it, but this was just an example that came in my mind. She said, we're paying too much on outside counsel. And I was like, all right, well, let me add this to my list. Right. Because, that was something that was not really in my awareness. Right. And so it just shows that when we're asking questions about the budget, it is broad.
Yeah.
Right. Our budget spending. It's
yeah.
broad.
Just one again. I mean, there's this thing that we have to cut. But what bothers me about that conversation is we have had in Oakland chronically high payments for police, fire, law for a long time. Right. And maybe maybe we need to go and say, hey, maybe we're just not making enough money and we're not figuring out how to make money. I'm just,
I,
I'm happy to be wrong about it. I just want to know you're thinking about it,
no, I mean, hey, I definitely have been thinking about it that way too. I've been thinking about it that way too. And so that's why I'm interested in sometimes in order to figure out how to solve something, you
Right.
actually got to see because there are agencies there are departments within the city of Oakland that actually bring in money, right? Whether we are talking about let's just say our parking enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they fully staffed to do that? To do the parking enforcement that's needed? That's a revenue generating source, right?
Mhm.
So even having a look at the things that are supposed to be bringing in the city money, and are we actually are we actually ensuring that that is happening? So there's a couple things. I mean, there's a couple things that really need to happen budget wise. We need to really look at all of these departments, figure out where the spending is taking place. Can there be some cuts, or can it be supplemented?
Mhm.
And the truth of the matter is, I was in which meeting was this? I was in a meeting today, and which meeting was that? I was in a meeting today, and someone was like, oh yeah, our budget, our grants program opens in October. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, all right, I gotta get on this now and
Mhm.
try to get these grant opportunities, over to where they need to go for our local government, because it's right now.
Yeah. It's
The funding to
immediate.
help support
Right.
what the city needs is in this moment right now.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 questions. I know you're on a clock here.
Yeah.
First of all, are you a defund the police kind of person?
I don't think that we are using that terminology anymore, right? I feel like there's been some dialogue around like, hey, maybe that wasn't the right language. I think that what the community was really asking for was to ensure that our community-based organizations, whether we're talking about the folks who are on the front lines helping to support victims of human and sex trafficking, do they have resources because they don't have enough?
Yeah.
Right? So on and so forth, right? And so I am 100% on board for ensuring that here in the city of Oakland and regionally, that our community-based organizations are funded properly so that they can do their best work. And I also know that uh, communities across Oakland also want that when they call 911 for their calls to be responded to in the time frame that has set out that it needs to be responded to, right?
Yeah.
And people want an officer to show up when they need it, right? These are all key public safety things that we have to address, right? Like we need these systems to be functioning as they were set up to. And so I am 100% on board for ensuring that.
And your thoughts about us losing our sports teams, because I believe next week the A's, it's like the last week of the A's, the Coliseum in our
Oh,
lifetimes, Uh, should we go about replacing our professional sports? What say you about that?
yeah, this is a great question. One thing that you should know about me, and I'm sure you could tell already, but I'm an optimist,
Yeah.
right? And so, in my own lifetime, I've seen the Raiders come and go.
Hmm.
Uh, across nationwide, you see sports teams come and go
Yep.
from communities, right? So I think the first thing that I would always lead with is like, hey, nothing is forever, right?
Yeah.
And you do need a leader who will be focused in on attracting and bringing new industry, sports teams, and things that actually generate buzz in our
Hmm.
city,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, I'll say it out loud. Hey, what's one of the soccer is an international sport, right? That people love worldwide. So
Yeah.
what imagine, I'm just throwing this out here. Imagine soccer becoming a destination here in Oakland.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Like that's just a random idea. Now, Of course, selfishly, I want the WNBA
Yeah.
in Oakland, right? And so
Yeah.
that broke my heart. But at the end of the day, we're gonna work with it. We know they're gonna be training here in Oakland. But but to answer your question is just like,
They need
hey,
a competitor. We should say they need a competitor. We should call the Oakland team the Wonder Women.
I was gonna say, like, we just got to give, I put me in that room. They just need some convincing. Like, hey, like, this is what we're working on in Oakland. Like, imagine we create an Oakland where people are trying to get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like like we just need to ensure that we are electing leaders who are committed to the work and they can really speak kind of like light and positivity into our city. Like
Yes.
at the end of the day, I also think that our police department, they could use an uplift of like morale. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we appreciate you. Thank you for serving our city, right? And that's also across the board, all of our city departments, right? It's hard work, myself included. I work at the state level. We work hard.
Thank you for serving our
Right?
state. Yeah.
So it's just like there's a lot of elements to, we show up every day, we're doing the work that we need to do. It's also okay to say, hey, you know what, thank you, and let's keep going.
Absolutely.
Right? And that applies to every field.
Now I know you got to go.
Yeah.
And I think I just got it right at the button. Any closing thoughts before we?
Well, first off, thank you so much for inviting me to
Yeah,
the
come on back.
show. Yeah, would love to stay. Let's stay in close kind of dialogue and conversation. Yeah. So I think my closing statements would be, hey, check out my website, rowenaforoakland.com. See the amazing coalition of folks who are supporting my campaign for city council at large. Reach out to me. Feel free to ask me any questions. And my last thing that I would uplift is like, hey, don't forget is ranked choice voting. So let's do it right this time.
Yeah.
And, right. And make sure, vote me number one, of course. But make sure that you investigate all of the candidates and ultimately I'm here because I'm running for Oakland City Council because I know that I have what it takes. I'm committed to the work. And I bring
Have you decided on who your ranked choice voting partner is going to be? I heard some rumors, but I don't want to drop any names, so I don't want to.
I think it's still a work in progress.
Okay.
It's still a work in progress, but at the end of the day, as the voters are investigating the different candidates, tune into a forum, hear them speak on the issues, right? And then the other last component is that you need someone right as soon as it's 2025 that can come in and have an understanding about how local government works, what happens at the county and the state level to start to really move the room and help impact change here in the city. And so I believe that I'm the number one choice to do that.
Well done. Hey, I'm blessed to have you. Come on back. I know you got to go. So, hey, look, don't push any buttons. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching, and like and subscribe and share this around the universe of the internet.
Let's do it.
That ends this live stream. Ms. Brown, you don't have to move a muscle. I got you.